Alright guys, so for this video we're going to be talking about mixing with Brilliant Lightener, which is our traditional lightener, and paint, which is our balayage lightener. So I'm going to start with paint because it's kind of my go-to. Alright, so paint can be mixed 1:1 to 1:4. It's a personal preference thing. My personal preference is 1:1 plus 10 to 15 grams. Yours might be a little bit different. 1:4 to me is a little bit runny. It might be great for doing like balayage at the bowl, a wet balayage, just the ends at the bowl, just something that's going to give you a little bit more looser consistency to it. All right, I strongly recommend that you have a scale for mixing purposes. It just makes everyone's life a little bit easier. Paint is a silica-based product. It is not a clay-based product, so it tends to stay moist on the inside and dry on the outside. You can let paint sit on for an hour if you want, but I don't think you'll need to. Mixing with 40 volume, I think the amount of lift you're going to see is going to be far surpass any clay lightener that you have been using. Okay, so I am going to mix, since I'm only doing this for demo, I'm just going to mix 15 grams. I usually like to measure in grams. I think it's easier to do the math, but that's personal preference. It's up to you. So I have 15 grams of lightener, and I'm going to do 15 grams of developer, and then I'm going to do my plus 10 because that's the way I like it. Alright, so when mixing paint, we want to make sure that we are folding it into itself. We want to see almost like a cottage cheese consistency. We want the powder to be absorbed, but we don't want to stir it. I'm using a paddle from Product Club. You are welcome to use a spatula. Another thing that I think is a pretty cool idea is just getting a paint stick from Home Depot. Okay, so let's make sure we can see. So it's kind of a clumpy consistency to it. It's not fully mixed. I would definitely recommend remixing for a section of the head. So if you want the front the lightest, start in the front, mix the front first before you do the back, remix. It'll just help keep your product fresh. Once you have it mixed to a cottage cheese consistency, take your brush and from there, remix it on your paddle, or you can use the back of your hand with a glove on and remix it there before starting to apply onto the hair. This will ensure every section that you bring down will have even consistency and even results. Okay? So, best practices with balayage. Keep a wet towel on hand. It's huge help. If you're wearing gloves, you can easily just wipe off the back of your hands and start again with your next section. Use a dry brush. Keeping a dry brush on hand is certainly going to help. If you have any mistakes before you drop that section, tap them off with a dry brush. It also can help with blending, where you want a seamless look from your high points down into the ends. And then start where you want it the lightest. So if you want it the lightest through the front, start in the front. If you want it the lightest down on the ends in the back, maybe start in the back. Okay? All right. Next up is going to be Brilliant Lightener. So Brilliant is our traditional lightener. Brilliant can be used on scalp with 20 volume. I don't think you really need to go any higher than that, and I don't think it's recommended to go any higher than that. In a foil, you can use 10 volume, 20 volume, or 30 volume. There's no need to use 40 volume in a foil with Brilliant. Even with 10 volume, if you lift slower and lower, you're gonna see an even, consistent lift throughout the hair, and it's gonna be light enough for you. So I'm gonna mix 15 grams Brilliant is mixed 1 to 2. Okay. So 15 to 2 would be, I'm gonna make a total of 45 in my bowl. There we go. So the cool thing about Brilliant is that all the expansion that happens after your mixing process. So we're mixed, you guys can see. Back up just a little bit, see if we can get the light right for you. It's a little runny. See that? My best suggestion with mixing Brilliant is let it set for a minute. If you're doing a high lift with Brilliant or you're doing a low light with Brilliant, finish mixing your other colors. By the time you get your towel on your client, comb out their hair, get it sectioned into your patterns that you want it in, and you get yourself all set up and your station all set up, this Brilliance expansion is gonna have happened. It takes like a minute, but if you let it set for just a minute, the expansion process is already starting to happen. I'm gonna let it set for just another 30 seconds here. All right, so let's make sure I got everything covered. So paint, silica based, not a clay base. It encapsulates, it stays hard on the outside, wet on the inside. You can process for up to an hour. I don't think you're gonna need to. I think 30 minutes, 40 minutes is plenty based upon your developer. 30 and 40 volume work best with it. Make sure you fold using a spatula, paint stick, or paddle. Emulsify the sections individually on a paddle or the back of your hand before starting to apply each individual section. Best practices, keep your wet brush handy, keep a towel handy, and a brush, an extra brush handy, a dry brush, sorry. And where you start is gonna depend on where you want it the lightest. So if you want it the lightest in the front, start there. If you want it the lightest in the back, start through the back sections. Brilliant, 1 to 2 mixing ratio. You're gonna get an even lift throughout the hair. Bleach and tone, 20 volume max. You can use 30 volume, 20 volume, or 10 volume with Brilliant Lightener, the traditional lightener. So you guys can see, it's set. So all of the expansion has happened already. Ta-da! All right. I hope this helps. I want to see your creations. Thanks so much.